Edo State Command of the Nigeria Police Force has confirmed the killing of 7 persons on Friday during a communal clash between the people of Gbelemonti and Maidoti communities in the Ovia Southwest local government of Edo State, with the police also arresting a member of the Edo State Vigilante group who shot dead and set ablaze a victim he falsely accused of being a thief out of malice due to misunderstanding the vigilante member had with the deceased, just as the new Commissioner of Police, Enekpen Otimenyin, subjects police personnel in the state to retraining. According to Daily Post newspaper, the Edo State Police Command arrested a member of a local vigilante in Benin City for allegedly killing an artisan and setting his corpse ablaze. The public relations officer of the command, Moses Yamu, disclosed this on Sunday in Benin City, according to the news media. Yamu said the suspect was arrested by operatives of the Textile Mill Road Division following a distress call received from members of the public at about 8 a.m. on February 20, 2025. He said the divisional police officer in charge of the Textile Mill Division received a call that they saw a corpse of a middle-aged man lying under sawdust and burning. According to him, the divisional police officer in charge of the Textile Mill Road Division received a distress call at about 8 a.m. on Thursday, February 20, 2025, from members of the public that they saw a corpse of a middle-aged man covered with sawdust and set ablaze. The DPO mobilized and deployed his operatives to the scene and actually found the corpse burning under the sawdust. They took the corpse to the hospital, but they, however, found that there was a gunshot injury on the back of the deceased's neck. Investigation has already commenced, and we have one suspect in our custody who is the security person of the sawmill at the time the incident happened, he said. Yamu said the case has been transferred to the State Criminal Investigation Department for in-depth investigations, assuring that at the conclusion of the investigation the suspect will be charged to court for murder. Daily Post reported that the deceased, identified as Lasan Osaze Ehabo, was said to have had disagreement with the said local vigilante member, adding that on the fateful day, the deceased was said to be returning home late in the night with his friend when they were accosted on the road near the sawmill by the suspect. The suspect, who was alleged to have been armed with a double-barrel gun, was said to question the deceased while returning late. The suspect was also alleged to have labeled the deceased a thief and accused him of coming to steal in the sawmill. It was further learned that, during the interrogation, the suspect brought out his gun and shot the deceased to death. He was to have dragged the deceased from the roadside into the sawmill where he allegedly gathered the sawdust in the milling company and set his body ablaze. Meanwhile, in her quest to rid the state of crime, the Commissioner of Police, CP Betty Enekpen Otimenyin, directed for the immediate retraining of personnel to enhance their operational capabilities to tackle the challenges ahead. A total of 160, but following the public criticism of President Donald Trump of the United States that the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, is a man who has lost touch with his people and a dictator who refused to conduct election for new leader to take over the affairs of the country. Zelenskyy, while asked if he could resign by a journalist at a press conference organized to mark the 3rd-year anniversary of war in Ukraine, says he would do that if it would bring peace to Ukraine, and he's ready to do that as exchange for Ukraine to be enlisted as a member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. Asked on Sunday at a press conference if he was ready to quit if it ensures peace for Ukraine, Zelenskyy said, "If it guarantees peace for Ukraine, if you really need me to resign, I am ready. I can exchange it for NATO." The Ukrainian president previously had said his country's army will need to double in size if NATO denies its membership to the alliance. Earlier this month, U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth said that Kyiv joining NATO was unrealistic. "If it is absolutely necessary for me to leave my post, I am ready to do so. I can exchange it for NATO membership. If such conditions exist, then immediately, without prolonged discussions. I am focused on Ukraine's security today and do not intend to remain in power for decades. This is probably my dream, Zelenskyy, who spoke in a native language as interpreted in English language by an interpreter, stated during the press conference marking the 3rd anniversary of the start of the full-scale war in Ukraine. Zelenskyy, in a post on his X social media handle on Sunday, also said, "Ukrainians have come a long way. And this year, we must do everything possible and impossible to achieve a real peace. Peace with security guarantees for our state, with guarantees of dignity and respect for all our people, for everyone who has lived, lives and will live in Ukraine. The people of Ukraine deserve respect, just as every nation on earth does. And just as every person does. Those who are fighting, those who have raised truly heroic sons and daughters. I thank every Ukrainian warrior, all the families of our defenders, and everyone who stands with Ukraine. Thank you for keeping Ukraine alive." We had earlier reported that despite the medical condition that he's under the high flow of oxygen in the hospital over double pneumonia, Pope Francis on Sunday, on the eve of the 3rd year anniversary of the war in Ukraine launched by President Vladimir Putin-led Russian government, called on everyone in the world to remember victims of the war in Ukraine, describing the war which started on February 24, 2022 as painful, shameful for all humanity. Previously, we reported that the Ukrainian President, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, has continued his phone conversations with world leaders with a video and written press statement on Saturday saying that the world leaders must ensure that the Russian President, Vladimir Putin, is not allowed to deceive the world again, insisting that Putin has used Russian army, intelligence services and mercenaries over 30 years to bring death to America, Europe, Africa, Middle East, Syria. Despite the medical condition that he's under the high flow of oxygen in the hospital over double pneumonia, Pope Francis on Sunday, on the eve of the 3rd year anniversary of the war in Ukraine launched by President Vladimir Putin-led Russian government, called on everyone in the world to remember victims of the war in Ukraine, describing the war which started on February 24, 2022 as painful, shameful for all humanity. According to local media monitoring the activities of Catholic Church, Vatican News Media, Pope Francis stated this during his Angelus address, which Pope Francis asked the Holy See Press Office to release while he recovered in the hospital. Adding, the Holy Father remembers the imminent 3-year anniversary of the war in Ukraine on the 24th of February 2025, calling it a painful and shameful occasion for all humanity, and saying he renews his solidarity with suffering Ukrainians and for all victims of armed conflicts as he prays for peace. The press release as presented by the Vatican News reads, "Tomorrow marks the 3rd anniversary of the full-scale war against Ukraine, a painful and shameful occasion for all of humanity." Pope Francis expressed this during the Angelus address he chose to have published on Sunday, one day before the 3-year anniversary of the full-scale Russian invasion in Ukraine. The Holy Father has been being treated at Rome's Gemelli Hospital since February 14th, diagnosed with double pneumonia. In his Angelus remarks, the Holy Father remembered, martyred Ukraine. "As I renew my solidarity with the martyred Ukrainian people," the Pope reminded, "I invite you to remember the victims of all armed conflicts and to pray for the gift of peace in Palestine, Israel, and throughout the Middle East, in Myanmar, in Kivu, and in Sudan." The Holy Father also expressed his gratitude for all those who have been praying for him. "In these days, I have received many messages of affection," he noted, saying, "I have been particularly moved by the letters and drawings from children. Thank you for this closeness and for the comforting prayers I have received from all over the world." The Pope concluded, before reassuring, "I entrust everyone to the intercession of Mary and ask you to pray for me." We had reported that the Ukrainian President, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, has continued his phone conversations with world leaders with a video and written press statement on Saturday saying that the world leaders must ensure that the Russian President, Vladimir Putin, is not allowed to deceive the world again, insisting that Putin has used Russian army, intelligence services and mercenaries over 30 years to bring death to America, Europe, Africa, Middle East, Syria. This, Zelenskyy stated after he began special defense campaign with phone conversations with world leaders following strained relationship with one of the countries that has majorly assisted Ukraine in its defense against Russia since 2022 when the war began. United States, U.S. President Donald Trump, who threatened to stop military aid to Ukraine, claiming that Ukraine started the war it knows it cannot win, calling President Volodymyr Zelenskyy a modestly successful comedian and a dictator that deceived the Ukrainian president. Volodymyr Zelenskyy has continued his phone conversations with world leaders with a video and written press statement on Saturday saying that the world leaders must ensure that the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, is not allowed to deceive the world again, insisting that Putin has used Russian army, intelligence services and mercenaries over 30 years to bring death to America, Europe, Africa, Middle East, Syria. This, Zelenskyy stated after he began special defense campaign with phone conversations with world leaders following strained relationship with one of the countries that has majorly assisted Ukraine in its defense against Russia since 2022 when the war began. United States, U.S. President Donald Trump, who threatened to stop military aid to Ukraine, claiming that Ukraine started the war it knows it cannot win, calling President Volodymyr Zelenskyy a modestly successful comedian and a dictator that deceived the immediate past U.S. President Joe Biden to commit over $350 billion of U.S. taxpayers' money on a war the North America country will not get any profit in return, with the Ukrainian president accusing Donald Trump of disinformation and saying that Putin-led Russia has intensified attacks and launched massive bomb destructions on Ukraine cities and villages during the week of Donald Trump's outburst. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, while responding to the accusations made against him by President Donald Trump, said that the U.S. president is living in disinformation space. Joe Biden is a very dumb man, President Trump said, criticizing former President Biden's handling of the Russia-Ukraine conflict and his approach to Vladimir Putin during an appearance on The Brian Kilmeade Show during the week. President Donald Trump had said on Tuesday that Ukraine was responsible for Russia's invasion of the country 3 years ago, arguing Kyiv could have made a deal to avoid the conflict. "You should have never started it," Trump said of Ukraine while criticizing President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, who had expressed concern that his country was not included in talks between the US and Russia in Saudi Arabia. "I think I have the power to end this war, and I think it's going very well. But today I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited." "Well, you've been there for 3 years," Trump told reporters at his Mar-a-Lago resort. "You should have never started it. You could have made a deal," adding, "I could have made a deal for Ukraine that would have given them almost all of the land, everything, almost all of the land, and no people would have been killed, and no city would have been demolished, and not one dome would have been knocked down. But they chose not to do it that way." While speaking with American governors on Friday, President Donald Trump said that, "I've had very good talks with Putin, and I've had not such good talks with Ukraine." President Donald Trump's envoy to Ukraine and Russia said on Friday that he had held extensive and positive discussions with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy about the 3-year war with Russia and praised the Ukrainian leader as an embattled and courageous leader of a nation at war. Retired U.S. Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, who traveled to Kyiv, head of the Catholic Church, Pope Francis is not out of danger and his health worsened on Saturday evening, says Vatican. The Vatican made this known a few moments ago, saying the health condition of the Catholic Pope has worsened more than it was on Friday and the health of the Catholic Church is uncomfortable. The Vatican said the 88-year-old Pope Francis, who is being treated in hospital for double pneumonia, will not appear in public on Sunday to lead his usual weekly prayer with pilgrims for a second consecutive week. In quote, Vatican stated in the press release thus, the Holy See Press Office issued the following medical update on Pope Francis on Saturday evening. The condition of the Holy Father continues to be critical. Therefore, as explained yesterday, the Pope is not out of danger. This morning, Pope Francis experienced an asthma-like respiratory crisis of prolonged intensity, which required the administration of high-flow oxygen. Today's blood tests also revealed thrombocytopenia, associated with anemia, which required the administration of blood transfusions. The Holy Father remains alert and spent the day in an armchair, although he is more uncomfortable than yesterday. At the moment, the prognosis remains guarded. It would be recalled that during the week, Pope Francis had privately told his aides that he may not survive his current battle with pneumonia and is making preparations for his legacy, including considerations for his successor. Pope Francis, who was diagnosed with pneumonia in both lungs and admitted to a hospital in Rome with bronchitis last Friday, slept well overnight and ate breakfast on Wednesday, the Vatican said. A source at the institution said the pontiff was not suffering heart problems and was breathing on his own, without the aid of a respirator. They said he was sitting up in an armchair at times, and it was understood that he is under strict orders from his medical team to rest. The Vatican said Pope Francis had a peaceful night, a day after revealing the 88-year-old pontiff has pneumonia in both lungs. The Pope is under strict orders to rest and is not allowed visitors, but he has been signing documents and making phone calls from the hospital. According to the Vatican, Pope Francis was diagnosed with a polymicrobial respiratory tract infection. Recent tests reveal a complex clinical picture, requiring an extended hospital stay for the 88-year-old pontiff in Rome. Local media reported that the Vatican is reportedly making preparations for Pope Francis's funeral amid concerns over the 88-year-old pontiff's declining health. The blood tests, evaluated by the medical staff, show a slight improvement, particularly in the inflammatory markers, according to the previous press release issued by the Holy See Press Office on Pope Francis's health on Wednesday evening. It described the Holy Father's condition as stable. Continuing, the statement explained the Pope had breakfast in the morning and then engaged in work activities with his closest collaborators. Before lunch, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) have handed over millions of naira recovered from internet criminals to representatives of the fraud victims in America, Spain and Switzerland, just as the EFCC arraigned a lawyer for 1.3 billion naira's forex fraud in Uyo and more 35 Chinese nationals for cyber-terrorism's internet fraud in Lagos State. EFCC, in numbers of news releases during the week, disclosed this as presented verbatim below. EFCC hands over $132,362.43, 78,566,324 nairas and 81 kobos to foreign victims of fraud. As a gesture of its commitment to tackling economic and financial crimes and offering restitution to victims of fraudulent practices, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has handed over a total sum of $132,362 United States dollars, 43 cents, 78,566,324 naira, 81 kobo to American, Spanish and Swiss victims of local fraudsters. The handover, which was performed by the executive chairman of the commission, Mr. Ola Olukoyede, took place on Friday, February 21, 2025 at the EFCC's corporate headquarters in Jabi, Abuja. A delighted Olukoyede observed that the event is a demonstration of the commitment of the federal government of Nigeria and that of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to the fight against corruption and financial crimes. A commitment to good governance, a commitment to stimulating the economy, and a commitment to prove to the entire world that Nigeria is not a safe haven for financial crimes. A commitment to international cooperation and international synergy in the fight against financial crimes, which you will agree with me, has become a global crime. Speaking further, he said, "We are here to demonstrate that the federal government of Nigeria, through the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC is ready to do everything possible to prevent financial crimes from being perpetrated in our system. And when one has taken place, to investigate where assets are involved, to trace, to recover, and where necessary, prosecute. We don't just recover, we restitute the victims. We are here this morning to restitute those who were victimized through the perpetration of economic and financial crimes. It is important to know that once proceeds of crime are recovered, the most responsible thing to do is to restitute the victims. Handed over in addition to money are vehicles and real estate to citizens of Spain, United States of America and Switzerland. Acting Ambassador of Spain to Nigeria, Maria Higon Velasco received the sum of $1,300. $1,300 and evidence of 30 million naira already transferred to the Embassy of Spain in Nigeria for onward transmission to a victim, Maria del Rosario San Jose. Florence Gill, Senior Political Officer, First Secretary, Edo State Government under the leadership of Governor Monday Okpebholo has said it will probe the immediate past governor of the state, Godwin Obaseki, and his political party, People's Democratic Party, PDP, after rain with breeze caught broken a telecommunication mast at Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium in Benin City, killing one of the event decorators. Pius Etim, whom privileged video showed that he was apparently left to die, as Pius Etim was seen in the video, trapped under the iron pole and begging for rescue for some minutes, which no one apparently didn't make effort to help him at an event organized by Governor Okpebholo to mark his 100 days in office. Just as same day, the rain also caught broken a very large billboard with the photograph of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu done on it with a bold caption, "Baba, Edo is working." Although the rain fell, the political ad on a moving car, but the occupant of the vehicle survived the accident. According to AccuWeather forecast, rain was not expected to fall in Benin City on February 20, 2025. Instead, a heavy downpour was forecasted to start in the Edo State capital on Friday, February 21, 2025. Some residents in Benin City said the rain was strange because the downpour came with a little breeze to cut broken the gigantic large billboard of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at Seluko Road Junction in Benin City, collapsing on a red moving car, which occupant of the vehicle came out alive unhurt. Fred Itua, the chief press secretary to the state governor, in a press release issued and made available on Friday, said as presented in quotes below. Edo State Governor, Senator Monday Okpebholo, has expressed deep sadness and condolences to the family of Pius Etim, a young man who tragically lost his life due to an unfortunate incident on Thursday evening at the Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium, Benin City, following a heavy rainfall. Governor Okpebholo described the collapsed mast that killed Pius Etim during the heavy rainfall as unfortunate, sad and painful. "I am deeply saddened to learn of the passing of a young man, Pius Etim, during the intense rainfall and collapse of a mast at the Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium, Benin City." Governor Okpebholo extends heartfelt condolences to the family of Pius Etim during this difficult time. On behalf of the people of Edo State, I offer my deepest sympathies to the family and loved ones of Pius Etim. Our thoughts and prayers are with them during this period of grief. Governor Okpebholo, however, frowned at the attitude of leaders and members of the opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP, who took to various social media platforms on Thursday night to celebrate the unfortunate death of Pius Etim. Governor Okpebholo said such callousness and lack of empathy for the family of the deceased show that the PDP in Edo State has lost touch with the people it once governed. Preliminary investigations show that the collapsed structure at the Samuel Ogbemudia was erected by the administration of Godwin Obaseki, which did a shabby job. It is unfortunate that Obaseki and the PDP in Edo State, known for their lack of integrity, hired compromised contractors to erect defective structures at the stadium. Nigeria's Senate has summoned the current National Security Advisor, NSA, Malam Nuhu Ribadu, Director General of the Department of State Services, DSS, Adeola Ajayi, Director General of the National Intelligence Agency, NIA, Ambassador Mohammed and the Director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, DR. Major General Emmanuel Onyende, following the allegations made on Friday, February 14, 2025 at the United States Congress by a U.S. Congressman, Scott Perry, that the U.S. government is funding Boko Haram among other terrorist organizations in the world through the United States Aid for International Development, USAID. This, he said, less than 3 years after former Nigeria Chief Security Officer Hamza Al-Mustafa on December 6, 2022, as a guest at the reality radio and television magazine program produced by the Brackett family, alleged that Boko Haram insurgency is a product of foreign interest for the purpose of exporting an unannounced most expensive mineral resource in the world, californium stone, that is abundantly found in Borno State, used by world powers to produce nuclear weapons, with emphasis that the Boko Haram activities are funded by foreign interests under the guise of non-governmental organizations, NGOs, who do come to Borno with the pretense that they are helping the people to fight against poverty and poor healthcare, but at the dead of the night, the foreign NGO officials alone do go to dangerous places in Borno State where Nigerian soldiers dare not go even at daytime. Vanguard newspaper reported that the Senate invited the intelligence chiefs just as President Bola Tinubu and Senate President Godswill Akpabio met last night at the presidential villa to discuss the matter. Californium was discovered in 1950 by Ahmed Gilso and Glenn T. Seaborg at the University of California, Berkeley, and was named after the state of California and the university where it was discovered. And californium stone is used for nuclear explosives, which Boko Haram in 2010 almost on daily basis was bombing Nigeria capital city, Abuja, when the then National Security Advisor, Owoye Azazi, who later died in helicopter crash, that Boko Haram has foreign support, well-trained, funded and enjoyed patronage of some politicians like the People's Democratic Party, PDP, who he alleged was aiding and abetting Boko Haram over internal wrangling in the then ruling party. When the Chibok girls were kidnapped by Boko Haram, the then Nigerian First Lady, Patience Jonathan, obviously acting on privilege and security intelligence, apparently accused the people in the northeastern part of Nigeria that they knew what they are doing and that the blood of innocent people they are sharing in the region is enough. The U.S. government, led by then President Barack Obama, apparently believed members of the Boko Haram group to be protesters or freedom fighters, and Barack Obama always blamed the Boko Haram insecurity on bad governance in Nigeria until U.S. congressmen and women mounted consistent pressure on him to declare the Boko Haram insurgency an international terrorist organization, which Barack Obama eventually did in June 2012 after Boko Haram had bombed United Nations UN headquarters in Abuja in 2011. In June, the U.S. State Department announced the designations for the Boko Haram leader, Abubakar Shekau, as well as Abubakar Adam Kamba and Khalid al-Banawi. Kamba and Banawi were said the 10th leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB. Nnamdi Kanu on Valentine's Day sent a message to the lovers, supporters of the Biafra Republic agitation and the general public that he would remain in detention until impartial and unbiased judge take over the case of alleged terrorism filed against him by the federal government of Nigeria, narrating how the judiciary has been biased against him since years of his detention. In an open letter to the general public, the detained Biafra leader, who has continued his agitation for the declaration of Biafra Republic, stated below in quotes, "Greetings to all men and women of goodwill in Nigeria and elsewhere in the world. I have been compelled by the events of the past few days to take the unusual step of writing this open letter for the singular purpose of calling the attention of the general public to the serial executive and judicial fraud being perpetrated against me since my extraordinary rendition in 2021. The details are as follows. 1. In a judgment entered on the 1st of March 2017, the Federal High Court Abuja ruled that the IPOB is not an unlawful group. At the time, it received widespread publicity which can be verified from vanguard.com/2017/03/Kanu-I. This landmark ruling, made by the court before it turned unjust, emanated in a criminal proceedings that required proof beyond reasonable doubt, and in which the federal government and my humble self presented our respective cases. Alas, instead of the federal government to go on appeal as the law mandated, If they are dissatisfied with the judgment, the former Attorney General, Abubakar Malami, went behind closed doors with a letter signed by late Abakari and got IPOB proscribed, tagged a terrorist group in an ex-parte proceedings conducted without notice to me or to the IPOB. This abominable incident was the earliest sign yet that the government and its judiciary have struck an unholy and fraudulent alliance to deny me my rights and thereby imperil the lives and liberty of millions who identity with IPOB. 2. On the 26th of October 2022, a federal high court declared my extraordinary rendition and detention as unconstitutional, stating that the manner of arrest and detention of the applicant, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, in Kenya, his continued detention in Abuja, his subjection to physical and mental trauma by the respondents, the inhuman and degrading treatment meted out to the applicant amounts to a brazen violation of the applicant's fundamental right to dignity of his person and threat to life under Section 34(1)(a) of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended. The court further ordered the federal government to apologize to me and pay me compensation. In a responsible and well-ordered society, run by a responsible government, this judgment is sufficient to have ended my lengthy detention and encourage the federal government to constructively engage me on the issue of the self-determination agitation that triggered this whole saga. 3. Pedal back to the 13th of October 2022 when the Court of Appeal held that the courts must never shy away from calling the men of the Nigeria police force in line with the zeal of the Anambra State Governor, Professor Charles Chukwuma Soludo, to wipe the state of apparent criminal fetish practice of Okite and the activities of some Ezenwani largely believed to be responsible for cases of missing children, have arrested a medical doctor alongside his gang of child-stealing syndicate and rescued over 10 missing babies looking already malnourished in captivity at Onitsha area of the state. The police authority described the arrested medical doctor as fake, but the suspect alongside others were apparently not paraded for further independent investigations. The Anambra State Commissioner of Police, Ikeoye Orutugu, in a statement on Monday, called on all parents looking for their missing babies to come to the police command headquarters in Awka for identification if any of the rescued babies is theirs. The commissioner said that, "I am pleased to address you and Ndi Anambra today on yet another breakthrough on our commitment to protecting vulnerable children and combating human trafficking in the state." Police operatives attached to 323 Divisional Headquarters on an intelligence-led information investigation on the 15th of February 2025 arrested one Mr. Odinakachukwu Okori, male, Ifunanya Ogbonna, female, and a fake medical doctor Mr. Daniel Ikebilu, male, and rescued 10 looking malnourished children in an apartment in inland town Onitsha. The divisional police headquarters have been monitoring one of the alleged suspects, Odinakachukwu, in the area on the receipt of a report on the 28th of July 2024 about a missing 6-year-old boy in the neighborhood. The operatives, having enough evidence, quickly arrested Odinakachukwu Okori on the receipt of the second complaint on the 13th of February 2025 of a missing 5-year-old girl in the same area. During interrogation, the suspect mentioned Ifunanya as part of the child-stealing syndicate. Further revelation led to the rescue of both children earlier reported missing and the arrest of Mr. Daniel Ikebilu, a fake doctor. Before, Odinakachukwu and Ifunanya confessed to have perfected their plans to flee with the 5-year-old girl to Abuja. Ifunanya also confessed to having sold the child 1 million nairas, to Mr. Daniel. The police, still acting on information gathered, further rescued 8 other children in an apartment in inland town, Onitsha. To this end, the command sought the assistance of the Anambra State government through the Ministry of Women's Affairs for custody, medical attention, and care to help the children recover from the ordeal. This achievement highlights the importance of community police collaboration and intelligence gathering in combating child trafficking. Lastly, the command calls on anyone looking for his or her child to come to Anambra State Police Command for necessary action and possible reunion to their parents, the Commissioner of Police, Ikeoye Orutugu, stated. We had reported that the monarch in Delta State, His Royal Highness Epiphany Azinge, the Asajba of Asaba, has banned a particular group of female spiritual native doctors known as Ezemoni from Asaba. The Delta State Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC Limited, has debunked a claim as stated in a now viral video that its premium motor spirit, PMS, dries too fast when compared to PMS from Dangote Refinery, stating that the particular NNPC fuel refilling station where the individual went to buy the PMS in Lagos State for the experiment was supplied the fuel product by Dangote Refinery, insisting NNPC uses high-quality compositions to formulate its PMS and Dangote Refinery adheres to strict industry standard in producing fuels it supplied to customers. The person who conducted the experiment, as seen in the video, said he bought some quantity of PMS refined by Dangote from a private fuel refilling station and went to NNPC station in the area to purchase another quantity of PMS allegedly refined by NNPC for the experiment. The person, as seen in the video, poured the same amount of the two separate PMS products into two small generators and put on the two generators at the same time and set a timer to monitor how fast the PMS burns. According to him, he observed that the PMS allegedly produced by NNPC dried faster within 17 minutes and some seconds, while the PMS produced by Dangote lasted up to 30 minutes and some seconds. NNPC, in a press release made available on Saturday, said that the NNPC fuel station he bought the PMS from sourced its PMS from Dangote Refinery, describing the experiment as false and misleading allegations. The press release, titled "NNPC Refutes Misleading Claims in Viral Video," reads below thus. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC Limited, strongly refutes the false and misleading allegations made in a viral video circulating online, which claims that NNPC fuel does not last. This assertion is baseless and entirely unfounded, originating from unverified and amateur research that lacks credibility, accuracy, and professional oversight. NNPC Limited reaffirms that its fuel is carefully formulated with one of the best compositions, ensuring optimal efficiency, durability, and environmental sustainability for consumers. Furthermore, it is important to emphasize that a significant percentage of premium motor spirit, PMS, sold at NNPC retail stations in Lagos, where this deceptive video was created, is sourced from the Dangote Refinery, a strategic partner in promoting local production and energy security. Dangote Refinery adheres to strict industry standards, guaranteeing the quality of petroleum products supplied to our consumers. This misleading video represents yet another desperate attempt by economic saboteurs to misinform the public and tarnish NNPC Limited's reputation. We will not tolerate deliberate misinformation designed to undermine our operations and mislead Nigerians. Henceforth, NNPC Limited will take firm legal action against individuals or groups who intentionally spread falsehoods about our brand and operations. Those engaged in such malicious acts. M23 rebels have announced the takeover of South Kivu city of Bukavu in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, and now in control of another major airport in the Kivu region, the Kavumu Airport, after the secessionist armed fighters sacked Congolese soldiers and foreign mercenaries on Friday. Local observers said that Kavumu, a strategic location in South Kivu, hosts an airport that was used by the DRC's coalition forces to launch attacks on M23 positions. A video of M23 rebels mocking Congolese and its foreign coalition forces after capturing Bukavu was published online on Friday. The rebels had said that their intention is to advance to Kinshasa, the capital city of Congo, which is more than 1,500 kilometers from Bukavu, to change the government of President Felix Tshisekedi. Local media reported that the neighboring community of Morobo in central equatorial state of South Sudan has raised alarm of the likely effect of the crisis on the community, calling on its government to beef up security at the border town. There is a crisis in the DRC, and we are very much afraid that it may affect some parts of central Equatoria, and the activities of the M23 have displaced some people from Congo to parts of central Equatoria in Morobo, and if these activities continue, our border is very vulnerable. One of the resolutions is to request the Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs to deploy forces along the border line to secure the border from encroachment. Paulino Lukudu Obede, Deputy Governor of Central Equatoria State, stated according to local media. Video showed Congolese and its coalition foreign soldiers fled and abandoned their weapons when Bukavu fell under the M23 rebels, with the abandoned military equipment seen at the entrance of Bukavu Airport, which included battlefield tanks. Meanwhile, the Democratic Republic of Congo's president, Felix Tshisekedi, will not attend an African Union summit this weekend in Addis Ababa, the government spokesperson, Tina Salama, said. The AU summit is focused on ending DRC's conflict with M23 rebels in the east. Prime Minister Judith Suminwa Tuluka is expected to represent the African nation at the event, Salama said on Friday. Fighting resumed in DR Congo a few days ago according to local media after the M23 announced ceasefire, but Congolese troops started pursuing M23 forces near the town of Igusi in South Kivu province, as the anti-government group continues its advance after seizing Goma last month. We had reported that the United Nations, UN, says dozens of inmates with more than 150 female prisoners alongside their babies were burnt alive on January 27, 2025 when some detainees at Muzenze prison in Goma set fire on the facility to escape after M23 advanced to take over the city, forcing prison guards to flee and shot dead many inmates. It would be recalled we had reported that, in a bitter reaction to the statement credited to South Africa President Cyril Ramaphosa over the killing of 13 SA soldiers in Goma by M23 rebels, Rwanda President Paul Kagame
bringing you the news in a more digital way.